All right. Hi, everybody. So on behalf of Dan and the team, I'd like to welcome everyone to the afternoon session of this fantastic summit. So this part, leadership, is really all about different aspects of creating and maintaining a leadership position with AI in travel. And I'm super grateful for the opportunity to kick it off with our panel on navigating the journey, VC insights into travel startups with my esteemed friends here. We'll begin by briefly introducing ourselves. And I also want to encourage everyone to share questions in the chat. If there's anything that you want to ask anonymously, feel free to DM me, and we'll try to keep an eye on that as we go through. So quickly, my background, Stephanie Daniel. I'm co-founder and CEO of Legends. You actually heard from my co-founder Shayna on the startup panel. So our Travel DNA platform transforms phone and photo data into traveler preference profiles to help brands personalize. So I'm bringing the founder perspective here. We've been lucky enough to have raised angel and VC funding as well as participate in an accelerator program. So Betsy, if you'd like to do a little introduction and maybe a focus of what it is that F Prime kind of focuses on would be great as well.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Really excited to be here today. I'm Betsy Mule. I'm an investor at F Prime Capital, based out here in Boston. So at F Prime Capital, we sit on our early stage tech fund where we look at enterprise and robotics. But within that, travel tech has been a huge area of focus for us which is much bigger than a small niche. It is, in fact, such a large part of what we do that it deserves a lot of funding. So we've looked all across the travel tech industry in short-term rentals with companies like AvantStay, the hotel tech stack with investments in companies like Canary Technologies, on the travel agent side, a company called TripSuite, on the air side, like companies like Deal Engine, and then more horizontal players in payments and infrastructure with companies like ConnexPay. So really excited to be here with you all today.
Great. Thanks. Carlos, how about from your side?
Well, welcome everyone. Super excited to be here with Betsy and with Stephanie. And I am Carlos Garcia. I am the founder of TripVentures. We are a travel tech focused fund. And we are stage agnostic, but we have invested in multiple companies, including Legends. So we're very excited to have Stephanie here and other companies in travel tech like Naya Homes, which we co-invested with Flybridge. And we always look for that new layer of tech in the travel and hospitality business. While I am an investor, I also think of myself as an entrepreneur. I built and sold 3 companies prior to starting the fund. So I have a lot of empathy for the entrepreneurial journey and the roller coaster that it can be. So, and that is something that we are very intentional about bringing to our fund and our portfolio companies as well. So glad to be able to join this conversation.
Great. As you say, Carlos, it is an entrepreneurial journey for sure, and from both sides of the table, right? From the funding side as well. So a little cheesy, but let me start with a poem that GPT shared on the state of travel funding. It paints a bit of an optimistic picture. So in tech's embrace, travel finds its wings, funding dance, a melody that sings. Post-pandemic echoes, challenges faced, investors rally, confidence embraced. Innovation sparks, a resilient light, navigating turbulence, taking flight. Funds flowing like a river's song, travel tech's journey, resilient and strong. So I like parts of this, and in particular, the concept of innovation being the spark. And we all know that we need funding to help fuel that, to create the fire from the spark. But the reality is that, funding environment has been challenging, and travel was 3.7 billion last year. That's around 2% of total VC funding for an industry that generates 9% of global GDP. I always think that's an interesting kind of comparison. And I don't know if you all heard, Mike Coletta from Focusrite mentioned yesterday that less than 5% of that travel part of the funding is going towards data and AI, inching upwards. But I thought that was kind of interesting as well, and obviously something that I think will evolve. So I'd love to kick off by asking you both if there are any themes that kind of resonate in there from an investment perspective, and maybe to weave in what particular parts of travel or solutions are you most excited about for the rest of this year? And when someone says they're AI powered now, do you get excited, or do you think, oh no, not another one?
Yeah, I can kick us off. So there's a lot in that question. I think the poem does a very good job. I think you pointed out a couple interesting parts about the innovation and really pushing that forward. But I think that last line about travel tech's journey, resilient and strong, holds true, particularly in travel tech. I mean, I hate to be the one to bring up the the year of 2020, but any founders who had started their company before that, if you were able to make it through that, the proof of resilience is there. And I think a lot of startups in the broader tech ecosystem had to go through kind of a reckoning in 2022 and 2023, where they had to shore up their balance sheet and make a lot of really hard choices. But travel tech founders have had to do that, A, from the beginning, but B, especially in the last few years, even before the broader tech kind of downturn. So I think the resiliency across the travel tech entrepreneurial system is strong and is really baked into the ethos there. On your question about what we think about an AI company, I think it's pretty clear after you've talked to a few companies if they're just adding AI for the sake of 10xing their valuation, or if it actually is an AI company. I mean, you'd be shocked how many companies we've seen that were historically Web3 companies and then were climate companies and now are AI companies. Like, if you've met them the 3 years in a row, they've changed with kind of each journey. But I think there are great use cases for AI in travel. And if they're using them correctly, then I think it's an awesome opportunity. As an example, one of our companies, TripSuite, is adding in an AI analytics feature. And I think that is something that is actually adding value for their customers versus just saying that you're an AI company for the sake of it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. How about Carlos from your side?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Betsy. Like the part of the poem that I like the most, is really the part about navigating turbulence and taking flight. Because going back to what Betsy was saying, 2020 and the journey that we've been through over the last couple of years, particularly in the travel industry, you have an $8 trillion industry that, for the first time ever, was reset, right? And like everything halted for the first time, and so that's a great opportunity to reinvent. To rethink, like to adopt digital tools in ways that the industry had not done before. So, like when we think of that new layer of tech, it's hard to think of a new layer of tech nowadays that it's not AI powered. And in the future, not just in travel, but like I will not trust a doctor that is not using AI in some way, or a financial advisor. So why wouldn't that be the same in the travel industry? Like I want the industry to be smarter, and perhaps like entrepreneurs see an opportunity to really capitalize on that. So to your question about like do we roll our eyes when we hear AI powered? I think that like it really gets my attention, like when I hear AI powered, but with a lot of skepticism.
Right.
With a lot of skepticism, because there's so much hype and so much, like Betsy said, like companies that are just saying AI because they want to live another day and and raise their next round of capital, or supersize their valuation with the hype of AI. But going back to, in the future, everything is going to be AI powered one way or another. So if you're building a company nowadays and you're not thinking of that AI powered future, maybe there's something wrong. So the question is there substance there? And I think that that's what we look for, but it definitely gets our attention, like when we hear AI powered.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like it's your guys' role to cut through the noise and get to that substance point. And so I guess on that point, as you assess startups, you must see so many come across your desk. What are the top 3 things that you're each looking for?
From my perspective, it's okay, Betsy, I can start and say it's utility. So I want to see that it's actually useful for users and not just technology for the sake of technology, but that it has a strong use case out of the gate. So that instant utility is key. The second thing would be scalability. Like it has to be able to scale. Like if you're talking about AI and you're not seeing multiples in terms of how this business can have higher margins because of AI, or it can grow faster because of AI, then don't talk to me about AI if you're not seeing a lift from AI in your business metrics as well. And ultimately, I would say, like a strong TAM, like a large, like a addressable market, which to me, it's not just the dream of an addressable market, but proof that there is a business foundation behind what you are building.
Yeah.
And I think that those things are criteria that we were looking for in almost any business before things became AI powered. And but now I am even more excited to be investing in travel because we see an opportunity for companies to go beyond what the incumbents have done in the past.
Yeah.
And that is something that we have not seen in the previous decade, with maybe the exceptions of companies like Airbnb that became a hundreds of billions in market cap valuation. But I would say those are the three scales: utility, scalability, and a strong TAM foundation.
Yeah, I love that perspective.
Yeah, and I think ours are definitely a continuation of that. And I think that's just by virtue of the fact that we invest kind of a stage later than where TripVentures does. So I think it's that utility, but turned into customer traction. So we're starting to look for those initial signs of, are you getting customers to both use your platform and start to pay for it? And then the next step would be real customer love. So a really big part of our diligence process is speaking to the customers, understanding what it is they love about your platform. If you were to shut down tomorrow, how upset would the customers be? Like, would they quit their job? Would they be super, just absolutely distraught? How much do they absolutely love and rely upon your product? And then I think the last part of that, and it goes to your scalability and utility and TAM, is just a visionary roadmap. I think across tech, but also particularly in B2B travel tech, it can often start as a point solution, solving a specific problem, but do you have the visionary roadmap to turn that into a more platform solution, to turn that into a higher ACV or something that is more scalable, where you can get those billion-dollar outcomes?
Yeah, I love that. And maybe since you mentioned it, Betsy, kind of business model. You mentioned B2B, B2C. Yeah. Obviously, you've both seen a lot of both. When we think about, travel, as I mentioned, it's a small portion of overall VC funding. And sometimes we all hear that travel is maybe a bad word for some traditional VC investors. How do you guys think about that? Why does travel still have a bad rep? Is that changing? And is business model anything to do with it?
Yeah, so I can start, and then Carlos would obviously love to hear yours as well. I think it's two different considerations on the B2B and the B2C side. On the B2C side, it's tough to go up against the giants like the Expedias and the Booking. They've taken a lot of air out of the room, and they have these marketing budgets that are just absolutely astronomical. And for us to talk to a seed stage company who says, I'm going to go head to head with them with quite frankly, a similar product, just a traditional B2C OTA, I think that's a tough proposition without any traction or without any proof points to say that you can scalably do that. Then on the B2B side, I think it's also difficult because there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes in travel that if you're new to the industry, I know I'm still learning, but especially if you're just, dabbling in travel tech, you don't understand all of the intricacies that goes on in the tech stack of any travel provider, whether it be the hotels or the airlines or short-term rentals. Really, there's so much legacy tech that you have to build upon and that you have to understand that I think it's tough to get into and tough to understand all of the players. To your point about, is this changing? I do think AI is a huge forcing function, especially on the B2C side, where I think the newer startup players might have an advantage. Yeah. You don't have to deal with all that technical debt that you've built up. You can kind of start from scratch and think about innovative ways, really from the ground up, of how the future of travel booking and of travel itself will change with the advent of AI. So yeah. I think there's big opportunities now. Obviously, we're investing in it, so I have to believe that. Yeah. And I think it's an exciting time for travel.
Yeah, absolutely. Carlos, how about from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, travel is very complex, and I've seen so many entrepreneurs that come from just tech and say that they can fix travel. And that usually is a sign, like of trouble, like somewhat of a red flag, I can see, like how, like this catalyst of AI in a way has leveled the playing field in ways that had not happened in decades in the travel industry. If, like I like to look at the macro view of the industry over the long run, right? Like, and if you look at so many decades of the travel industry and technology and the tug of war between technology and the old ways in the industry, you can see the GDS revolution. And, like before us, like I'm the older one here in the group, but before us, like we're building technology companies or investing in technology companies, there was that GDS revolution where travel advisors started using the GDS, and then we had the OTA revolution, and of course that came with the internet. And then you could argue that there were other revolutions that were not directed at the travel industry per se, but the advent of the smartphone, and social taking off in a massive way, and what that did to the travel industry as well. And now AI, right? So we've sort of seen this movie before, and what we see every time that there's a cycle like that is that there is an opportunity to challenge the incumbents. And Betsy mentioned something that is very, very true, particularly when it comes to the OTAs like Expedia and Booking Holdings. Their moat is the amount of money that they have to spend in marketing.
Yeah.
It's not really that the technology is better than the one next door to them. It's just that it's a barrier. It's a bar that is so high and that's why B2C for the longest time has been so difficult to crack in the travel industry. Yeah. With a few exceptions, like you look at Hopper more recently and how they grew over and. But like it's very few and far in between the companies that have made it in B2C travel. But now, like it's not just AI, it's, like a lot of things that have changed in terms of privacy, in terms of, like how you can target customers. All of those things, it's almost like we're back to the Wild West.
Yeah.
And I, as an investor, get excited about that, right?
Yeah, it is exciting. And it's an opportunity both from the startup perspective and for companies in the industry to be willing and more open to innovation, and hopefully startups can be part of pushing the industry forward in that way. I want to pick up on something in the comments because I think it is so topical, especially as it relates to AI, and as you think about judging startups. Defensibility, right? How do we think about that in this new world order that we have? Like, is IP different now?
It certainly is, Betsy, do you want to go first?
No, you go ahead.
The bar is so much lower to build technology nowadays, and it's so much less costly. I think that is one of the best tailwinds for entrepreneurs that are building something new nowadays, it has certainly changed, the way that we see new companies being built and how quickly they can be built. So I just see a lot of upside and a lot of opportunity for new entrants in the market, to build very successful travel tech companies on both sides, B2C and B2B.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is where the workflow becomes even more important, when the actual IP is pretty much commoditized, and whoever really fully understands what the customer pain point is, whether that be the B2C or the B2B backend solutions, if you deeply, deeply understand what the problem is and can build a delightful customer journey on that, that's what I think is going to be the winner.
Yeah, love that. Okay, I know we're counting down for time. I'm going to start with one slightly more negative question, but maybe helpful for entrepreneurs. What's the biggest red flag from a company or founder perspective that you guys see?
I touched on a few in my other answers, but I'll say solving too small of a pain point. I think a lot of travel entrepreneurs come from the industry and have experienced a pain point themselves, but might not do the research to say, is this a broader pain point? Are other people experiencing this as well? And I think that, don't get me wrong, I think those solutions should exist and you should absolutely go out and build them. Just at a venture scale, we are looking for those billion-dollar outcomes, and venture funding won't align the right incentives for yourselves and for us. So it's just not the right funding path.
Yeah. Maybe Carlos, I'll ask you a different question in the interest of
Sure.
time. When you think about traction in the world that we're in now, are the goalposts just higher at every stage? In terms of, Betsy, you talked about at your stage, you're looking at revenue, customers. Are VC investors just looking for more than they ever have before?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what's going on in the economy nowadays, has forced us to be a lot more pragmatic about the companies that we invest in. So something that Betsy said, about customer love and looking for that early on, right? I think that at the stage that Betsy and F Prime are investing, they are looking for other signs of traction than what we are looking on at the very beginning, early stage. But we still have line of sight. I want to see line of sight to a particular outcome that is exponential, right? Is this been built to be a multi-billion-dollar company? And I haven't seen a multi-billion-dollar company where there's no customer love behind it, right? And that level of attachment. So that's definitely a key ingredient that, even though it's early stage at the time that we come in versus the time that Betsy comes in, we need to see those signs of traction that does not have to be scalable at that particular stage, because you do the things that are not scalable first, right? But then figure out how to scale them. But you know it when you see it. You can feel it, right? Like when there's
clear leading indicators that it's on that path. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that our countdown is over, so I think we should wrap up. If there's a very quick couple word answer to this, if AI could help you do one thing, what would it be? It can be related to funding, investing, or not. Betsy, how about you?
Ooh, better manage my calendar is my quick answer.
Yep. Carlos, how about you?
Yeah, in the short term, I'm selfishly also, personal organization is key and top of mind. I would love to have AI that I can understand my dog Bruno. That's really, if AI could solve, understanding, my pet, that would be fantastic.
I love that. When someone asked me this the other day, I said, add another 5 hours to the day. But maybe we'll get there one day. All right. Well, thank you both so much for joining me. Great conversation, and everyone for the interaction in the chat and the questions. Feel free to reach out. I'm sure, to myself, I'll put my email in here if anyone has questions from a founder perspective. And Betsy and Carlos, I don't know if you want to, have folks find you on LinkedIn or anything else that you'd like to share.
That would be great.
Great.
Yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.